All right, hi everybody. My name is Leanne Barron. You can just call me Leanne. I'm going to talk today about running for office. Specifically, my goal with my consulting firm is to get more females into office, in power. But we can support everybody I can support anybody who's progressive and the same values as I have. So we'll go from there. My background is a political consultant, trainer. I'm an activist, so I go to a lot of protests and events where we're trying to speak out against this administration. Hopefully this is a safe room with people that are obviously coming to something that's sponsored by a Democratic group. I am clearly Democratic and very progressive, and so I'm trying to get more candidates that feel that way, share my worldview. And my background, again, is in training. My master's degree is in career development, training development, and my bachelor's degree is in psychology. So I really care about people, training, teaching. I've done it for 20-something years, a ton. This is a mission statement of, like I mentioned before, I envision a world where women are equally represented in our government and have a seat at all of the tables. I will continue to work to make this vision a reality by coaching candidates and their teams in order to build a better future. This is so necessary right now because a lot of things that are happening in this world is because we're not at the table. Or people with our ideas and our values are not at the table. And I think that's important to actually say that and say what you want, because you have to build the world that you want. We're going to talk about, as we go through, these are just kind of some divisions of what I'm going to cover. But what I'd like to do, especially with a small group, is share personal examples about campaigns that you've either worked on, or if you run for something, or you want to run for something. Please just speak out, because we have a small group. I can do that, and I can cater this presentation to specifically what you want to know, versus I'm talking in front of 30, 40, 50 people. I don't even know how many people we had at that huddle, where we were just going through the presentation, stopping a little bit for questions, but mostly just covering the information. So with a small group, I used to teach team building and coaching candidates and coaching team leaders. And we would do a lot of one-on-one, what's your situation and that kind of thing. So why is this important? We're going to talk about recruiting and supporting female candidates and how to do that, how to help do that. And then we're going to go through a little bit of information about building a campaign and what I help people do. Any questions before we go on? Okay, cool. Now I can do the any questions thing because we only have a couple people. So where are the women? We need you. So I had other statistics on here, but I wanted to cater this presentation or tailor it more local, because we talked about it being more local, because you guys have a big county with a lot of local open seats. You're talking about a lot of city council seats, a lot of school board seats. So women on this side are only 32% of municipal office holders, and that's in cities with populations over 10,000, but that is a third. So we need more. We are more than about half of the population. We need to be represented. And there are 26 women. That, I think, just changed by one currently serving in the U.S. Senate. There was another statistic on here about there were 12 female governors. I think it's 13 now out of 50. So it's just these statistics, looking at you could dial down to actual cities and just look at that, but that's why we have news stories about cities sometimes where, all the city council members are female or something like that, because it stands out, because it doesn't happen. So I'm trying to we have one woman, I'm from Solon. I've lived there 6 years and I work locally, politically there. We have one woman on our city council, and out of 7. And I'm we need more. I've been talking about it forever. So channeling our anger. So this is a really crazy time we're living through right now. And my thing is that we can acknowledge the severity of our situation, but also simultaneously work on solutions and action items. So I think that action is so important, because a lot of people say, well, what can I do? I mean, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do today, but even just raising your hand to work for a candidate or to run for office or to do all these things, those are some things that we can do, and that's kind of what I focus on. But the answer to what we face in general, I think, is building community, and that's what you guys do here with this group, and this county-wide group, like you said, so you have a lot of opportunities to gather people and work in the community, and practicing joy. And what do you think I mean by practicing joy? Why would I say that on something that I can control, or we can control, to channel our anger? What do you guys think? How do you practice joy in your life? So you can just share. Any examples?
I go Halloween decor hunting.
Okay, well that's a great example. And that brings you joy.
It does, yeah.
Right.
And if I don't have joy and I don't feel happy, I'm not going to be good at doing any of this.
Right, exactly. Anybody else? Practice joy. He's got something on the tip of his tongue.
I'm looking for opportunities these days.
Okay. You need more joy in your life. But I think this is the point of this slide is that we can channel our anger to do something, right? To build a community and to practice joy. And that this is hard to say because I've been very depressed lately with everything going on. I mean, I'm going to be honest and very vulnerable with you guys. It's been very hard. But they can't take our joy. Because that's our life, like our hobbies, our family, our vacations, the things that we do, our work. I mean, I love training people and teaching you. This is joyful for me today to talk to you. They can't take that from us. Well, at least not yet. So like, we're still working on it. But no, they cannot take our joy because I use this example. Do you guys know the Grinch that Stole Christmas? Yeah. Grinch, obviously the Trump figure in this situation. At the end of that movie, he takes all of their presents, he takes all of their decorations, he takes their Christmas. He thinks he takes their Christmas. And he's up there on his mountain looking down, and he hears them sing, and he hears the joy. He couldn't take that joy. And I started crying when I thought about that, because they can't take our joy. And this community is so important to that. So they cannot take your joy, and the Grinch cannot take their joy. The importance of community that's built right into this. We are more powerful together than alone. Finding allies, teammates, friends to build a community of activists with is essential right now. This is me on the side of the main thoroughfare in Solon. We have a couple protests where we bring our signs out and we'll stand there as traffic. People are coming home from work. These are some of my friends in my community, and we have a troublemaker group in Solon. I just feel like this is giving me life and helping me make a difference, because maybe once a month I can stand out there with the signs, with my values being reflected with other people. And I don't know if it makes a difference. There are a lot of people that honk and support. We only have a couple people that don't. So, I mean, I'd say something bad or like do something bad. But like mostly it's honks of support, and it makes me feel alive. How are you currently building a community? Does anybody want to answer that? Because I know that they are actually, so you can answer, but anybody else can answer too. Yes.
So yesterday was National Night Out Against Crime.
Oh yeah.
So I work for the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office.
Oh, fantastic.
So I was in the 4th District in Cleveland with members of the community.
That's fantastic.
Giving out informational brochures and
yeah.
stuff like that. So.
And you felt that energy, right?
Right. And it was joyful, honestly.
Yeah.
Most people there were there voluntarily, not because, they were forced to be there. So.
That's awesome.
Getting in the space with people who, and I know this is, that's very different than running a campaign, but it's still interacting with people.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Interact with.
Right, and that's part of it. Yeah. It's just being out there, and you're actually like practicing and living your values. Right. I think that's one of the most important things, that we cannot let this stop us from practicing our values. And so building a community is one of my values. I think that we are stronger together. And so just thinking about, do you guys want to share anything about the community that you have here real quick before I go to the next?
Like one of the things we try really hard to do is have at least one social event a month.
Okay.
And I think because, it's not running a campaign, right? Like if you're not in politics, going to a thing where I have to volunteer or I have to knock doors, that's really scary. Right?
Yeah.
Coming and hanging out with us and eating Scoops ice cream, sitting at a park,
not scary at all, right?
And so you get to know like-minded people, and some of those people, they're never going to be campaign managers, door knockers, but some of them will be, but they need to know what they're getting into, and they want to meet like-minded folks, and so you're just like slowly building that network of people who, maybe don't want to knock doors, but
right.
they'll volunteer their backyard for a fundraiser,
or maybe they'll use their skills in a different way, which we'll talk about in a second, and they're all voters, and they know voters.
Yes.
So that's the thing.
On a smaller scale too, like not even just events or like community at large, but like a smaller scale. I lived in like our house in Wadsworth for 5 years before
yes.
I even started to like get to know my neighbors. And I felt like it wasn't until this like need to like find people even closer to me, not just in the city away
right.
or whatever. It was like I needed to know that there were people like very near me who felt the same, and so
yeah.
now I have a community of like I know my neighbors. Like
that's amazing.
That, like my neighbor down the road, this little old lady by herself just called me today that her car wouldn't start. Like
that's
have
wonderful.
A community just now like on our street. Like I never knew my neighbors before this.
I hate that we've gotten so far away. That used to be how it was a long, long time ago. But people were just insular on their screens and their little, yeah.
And like
but that's
3 years of that was COVID. To
yeah.
be fair, I moved and then COVID hit.
Well, I think COVID just brought us back even further back in.
Right.
So now we have to fight more to get out of it, out of our bubbles. But that's a great example. Your street, the people that live across the street from
Like
you.
my
And
husband and I just went on a walk last night, and like one guy who we like know he's a Dem friendly house now because of lit drops and things like
Yeah.
that. He was out with his dog, and we're like, hey Brent, or whatever. Like it's nice to just know people.
well, it's interesting. You need to know people even that don't feel the same way as you, right? The different perspectives, because that's what happened a lot with this immigrant situation, right? They're deporting people. They're like, oh, well, not this immigrant, right? Not this person. It's because once you know somebody, it's so hard to hate up close. It's so hard to hate up close. So knowing people and loving people is, I really feel like, is the way through this. And telling people that you love, that you love them and you care about them and knowing them. So we have to take action now in order to build a better future. That's my whole thing. So the steps we take today will lead to better outcomes tomorrow. Sometimes that's hard. That's like, how does attending this small meeting or going to this event or that night out or the different things that you do really lead to like what we want to see? But little things add up. And you're creating the future by doing these little things. And so this is us again on the side of Solon. The middle one is from another protest I went to. We've been to 6 or 7 in the last several months. We're always going to protest. And this one on the right is my husband and my son. You'll see them later in some other pictures. But my younger son, he's my activist. I have an older son that's in college, and he's going to be a senior in high school, my younger one. And he goes to all the protests with us, which is so great. And a lot of young people are not at these protests. So everyone will go up to him and be like, he's 17, they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here, and you need to bring your friends, and I'm so, how do we get young people here? And it was so interesting, this protest here, I think it was this one, there was a woman that was going around with a sign, and she wanted everybody to like sign their name and put their age. Oh, wow. And so you could see, it was a lot of older people, right? I'm 49, so there's like 50s, 60s, 70s, and then here's my son, 17, so obviously we need to attract the youth. I don't know how to, but it is their world they're inheriting. So I'm going to work probably until I die for him and my other son and hopefully grandchildren someday inherit a world that looks better than it is now. So I hope that more young people come. But he does come with us, so I think that's exciting. And then representation matters. I talk about that with my business and my consulting firm. Having a seat at the table matters. Even just being a progressive person with values that match up, having a seat at the table, it's just we have to be the leaders that we're looking for. And so a lot of my stuff is motivational. I'm kind of like a half motivational speaker apparently, but that's what I do. So there are no off years anymore. People talk about this people need to talk about this more. A lot of times we're just focused on the 25 and 26. Oh, let's talk about the midterms. Yeah, but then there's 27, which is also another local election year. This one's coming up in a couple months. And then 28. You can even add 29 and 30. Always to think 2, 3, 4 years in the future, maybe even 5, but then also not just one election cycle, the next election cycle. And so for local, I always think odd, 25, 27, and 29 are going to be local elections, which are big. You actually represent a huge county, so local elections are huge here because you have so many spots that need to be filled and run. So I always tell people there are no off years, so that's my whole thing there. And then starting local races matter more than you think. I think most people in this room probably agree, that's why you're here. But in addition, a lot of people get their start with local races. They were a city council person before, or they were on their school board before they became mayor, before they became a county council representative, before they ran for state rep or state senate. So I think it's really important to, if you have that desire, you may just want to stay local. And a lot of people just stay local for many, many years. But understand that a lot of people do, that's how they start, because local community is going to affect a lot of your daily life and what's going on. And with everything. And then I ask, have you ever considered running for school board, city council, county council, or mayor? But has anybody here run for any of those or have been on any of those? You've run for, or been on?
I'm currently running for school board.
Awesome.
Last cycle I ran to be state rep, which was...
You did?
Yeah, it was a bit of a initiation process.
So what
66.
What district, District 66?
Yeah, most of Medina County.
And who were you running against?
Sharon Ray.
Oh, I've heard that name.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was finishing up her third term.
Her third term, okay. How did it go?
Statistically, I'm learning how to spin it positive.
Okay.
I lost, but...
No, I know that.
Going in, I was told if you beat 30% as a Democrat in Medina County,
Yeah.
you did okay.
You did.
35%.
You got 35%? All right, let's give him a round of applause. Yeah. That's awesome.
It was a really successful loss.
Did you have a really strong team?
Yes. Yes.
Are you still friends with, you had a campaign manager, I assume?
And kept the same campaign manager and campaign treasurer for this
For this one that you're doing now. How did you meet your campaign manager?
She's the
I-
only
I
campaign
don't-
manager in Medina County.
Oh, is she one of the only people that does it?
She is the only person right
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
returning with her.
I'm trying
What's her name?
Leah
Leah
Nichols.
I feel like I know. Yeah, there's not that many of us, right?
I'm trying to remember who gave me her name, and I don't remember, but we met and hit it off right there.
You did?
The
Okay.
same,
She's
well,
phenomenal.
Oh, that's great.
the same goals, the same personality, eccentricities,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes. You have to. I would have to be with somebody who's comfortable with you. Yeah.
We're both very familiar
Okay.
with shared OCD and some other things.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, you have these lifelong friendships now, right?
Yeah, and now
Yeah.
sometimes we have lunch just to have lunch, and sometimes today we had lunch
To talk about.
to campaign.
So how's it going so far? Because it's going to be 3 months from now. So.
Yeah, up until about a week ago, there were 3 candidates for 3 seats, so it was going really well.
It was going really well.
About a week ago, a 4th candidate pulled a petition.
Okay.
I'm still crossing my fingers that it was.
The due date was today. Is today, which is so interesting that we're having this meeting today.
An hour before this meeting,
Yeah.
close.
I mean, yes. So that has to be like, all that stuff has to be checked.
Tomorrow, I'm going to call the Board of Elections and see if that 4th person actually turned in their petition.
Do you know if the 4th person is alignment with your values or not?
None of them are.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's school board, so
Yeah.
technically not political.
Well, but everything is political.
I will say this. on- In the benefit of my opponent,
Yeah.
2 of them have already been on the board.
Okay.
I've been going to board meetings, and I haven't seen, at the public meetings anyway,
Okay.
politics come out,
Okay.
which is very encouraging.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much politics drives the discussions between meetings, probably to a degree, but there hasn't been any.
It's just been focused on what they need to
Yeah,
focus on.
yeah,
Okay.
It's not let's ban these books kind of thing.
Okay. So you haven't had those kind of discussions there. They haven't had those discussions.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have any Moms for Liberty that are on your.
No, there were 2 that I thought might be pulling petitions, and they didn't, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So that's on the.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Just out of curiosity, which school district?
Highland,
Highland, okay.
yeah, very Republican, even for Medina County.
And it's still where you don't put, it's not technically nonpartisan still, right?
Right.
But it's like everyone kind of knows,
Yeah, you can
like
look
how,
it up.
yeah, you can look,
It's public
yeah, you can look up what people are.
Remember my campaign signs from last year.
He ran for a Democratic state rep, so.
So we'll see.
Oh my gosh. Did you make any friends through your state rep campaign as far as like other people that were running in other districts and like connect with state people?
I connected with some state, I went down to Columbus quite a bit.
Okay.
Mostly to bitch to our current rep, but.
Okay.
But I did make some connections down there.
Awesome.
Which would have been helpful, had I gotten in.
Yeah.
Not particularly helpful for this campaign, because, there are other districts.
My rep, who I worked for in 20, is Phil Robinson, and he's the assistant minority leader right now. So he just got that. I mean, it's his last. We need somebody to, I'm not running, but like, so we need somebody to run for his seat. We've kind of heard names, and I will help whoever. But this is his last cycle through. So, I mean, he could do something else, but it's his last rep. Yeah.
Now, I will say that on that subject, I met a ton of people locally
That's amazing.
that I never would have met.
If you didn't do this.
And, yeah, if I hadn't done that, and that's one of, if not the biggest benefit of having run, is I met a lot of really cool.
And these are people that will probably stick with you through thick and thin and forever. I mean, it's a,
Yeah, that's the impression I've got.
yeah. No. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing that information. So this is how to find potential candidates, and my first one is you. Obviously, he's running, and ran before, but picturing yourself in the role, but then also pick a friend that you can picture in the role, members of groups you're involved with, like members of your group here, your DEM group, DEM, I love that. Local activists, I know, I love it. Local activists, and it's easy to remember. Activists and volunteers that you guys know and that you learn from being out in the field, like you'll meet people that are really passionate about, that's the next thing, passionate about certain issues, and you're like, they would be a really good school board member or city council member or something, they would be great, because they have that passion and that drive to do it, because you have to have that. Someone a current elected official has in mind, a lot of times it's great if you have good relationships with your school board members, city council for local officials. And if you ever have like lunch with them or coffee with them, and they a lot of times have people in mind that could be great people that would run for office. People who are active in local politics, and then people who have worked on campaign teams, because sometimes people get the bug, they're on a campaign team, especially a successful campaign team, and they get the bug to actually run themselves. So these are some ways. There are many other ways to identify some potential people. Building our bench is very important. So researching open positions. So again, the thing is, there's no off years. There's always, and it's also, we're always recruiting. I'm always recruiting for people, right? Asking friends to consider running, making a list of potential candidates. I have like a Google sheet with like different people that I have in mind, offering your assistance to those people, and always be thinking about people you could ask to run. I think it's very important. Female candidates, this is specifically for us, often face more barriers than their male counterparts. Some of these include, and not limited to, but these are some, lack of a support network, family responsibilities and duties, financial hurdles, maybe not experience with they don't have a lot of experience with fundraising, or a lot of places that they can go to get money. Financial hurdles are something that comes into play. Fewer role models and mentors, especially with, you saw those statistics I showed at the beginning. There are fewer women in power to look to to be your mentor. And of course, age-old sexism. In this room, as far as like what you've seen, experienced, or know people that have experienced, how can we overcome these? Does anyone have any ideas that we can discuss? It's a lot. And there are many more barriers, but this is like a couple that I hear that come up again and again. Anybody have anything?
I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do as a group is line up the support people.
That's great.
Right? So like when we find somebody who is interested in running or who has been really involved and then we're going to approach about running, being able to say, we've got a campaign manager, we've got a data guy, we've got...
You mentioned this in the huddle, right?
Yeah.
You talked about that, okay.
Like being able to, like let them be themselves.
Right.
And then be like, all right, now we're going to help connect you to union printers and get you your signs.
You have the infrastructure already in place,
Yes.
and so they can plug right into it.
Yeah.
Or interview people that you have in mind or whatever. That's great. That's very helpful, because a lot of times people won't do it because they're scared to do it alone.
Yeah.
They just won't do it. They're like, I'm not doing that. And then the money thing is, I hear a big thing. It's really hard to find, because then another reason. So I have obviously a cost structure to my business, but I also have, I do a lot of pro bono work, and people sometimes are scared to work with me because they're like, well, I can't afford to pay you. I was like, well, I want you to get elected though. So it really is almost like a nonprofit situation in many ways, because you don't want I can help you get elected. If you don't pay me, that's not the worst thing in the world if I can get you elected, right? I'm able to do that. Some people are not, but I think that that's important, is that you're giving your help, your volunteers, you have that structure, that infrastructure that you can pass along to people, because a lot of people won't do it because they're so afraid of everything that's going to come their way. So it's important. Anybody else have any other ideas about overcoming any barriers? You have something. You're going to say something.
Well, yeah, I'm of course speaking from a male perspective.
Yes, and that's fine.
So I think, not that I am one of these people in power, but I think it's important to build relationships also with, I mean, it sounds horrible saying it this way, but like the men in power, because once in those, like, assuming you are on the school board, like, it's important to have those people helping as well.
Right.
So having the group below who can help as well, but also having kind of a passing of the baton is
Right.
my thought. But I don't know how to say that polite.
No, I think you said it great. Yeah. I mean, you're just speaking in reality,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that we have to operate within the reality that we live in. And I think there are a lot of men in power in my community, and I'm friends with a lot of them, which means I can call on them for things, and they can call on me. And so I think that's having that relationship, no matter what, male or female, I think is very important. But again, yes, the power structure, making sure you plug into it and don't be scared of it. I mean, we can't get power unless we know power, if that makes any sense to you guys. Like, you have to do it. There are many things. We could stay on this slide forever, but we'll go on because it's important. Supporting female candidates specifically, offering your support up front, helping them research positions and relevant issues. So sometimes people are scared. They'll say, okay, I'll run for office, but like you said, will you help me research what are the issues that people are talking about? What's going on in the community? Building the connections in the community. Maybe somebody running for office would just get into your group and kind of start asking you about people that you know. Helping the candidate build a campaign team and volunteer basis, which you're talking about. Lending your specific skill set. So maybe you can help with data management or finances or fundraising, and recognizing and addressing the unique barriers and challenges that females face. I think, again, like the elephant in the room, you have to actually say it. Like, what are we actually having to overcome? Especially in a super red county, right? Where people maybe historically have voted. Yes, it says nonpartisan, but people know who people are, and like they're voting for, oh, I know that person's a Republican, so I'm going to vote for them or whatever. So, kind of saying what needs to be said. So again, I always kind of say like a campaign is like a startup with a hard end date. There are many roles that need to be filled within a short amount of time. So the school board campaign is a very short amount of time, like he's talking about now. Some people don't decide. I worked with a school board candidate 4 years ago who basically decided to run at the last minute and was running around town. We had a group of people running around town getting her signatures. She ended up getting enough signatures. She knew a lot of people, which was really great. We ran a successful campaign. She was elected. Now she's up for re-election. I don't think she's going to have anybody running against her. I'm going to know when I check those things when I get home soon, but I think we're going to be okay. But she, at the last minute, like August deadline was turning in her paperwork. And then we had the rest of August, September, October, you're basically at the end. You're just trying to get out the vote. So those are short-term campaigns. Sometimes the longer city council, you get a couple more months, and then state rep and things like that are a lot longer, but you gotta run in a short amount of time. So you need friends and people in the community to fill these roles. Finance director, fundraising, field manager, that's important to have somebody to organize those volunteers. Someone who manages data, communications, and treasurer is like the first thing you have to find, right? You have to designate a treasurer, so that's number one. I raised my hand, now what? So it's like stepping out of your comfort zone. So I know this sounds so cheesy, but it is where the magic happens. So when you ran for state rep and those things, maybe you didn't win, but you gained a lot of experience and knowledge and friendships and connections that you never would have gotten before. That is where the magic happens. Getting feedback from trusted people, building that support network, and envisioning yourself in a position. And again, I say practice, 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 because everybody I work with, it's like practice your presentation, practice your elevator pitch, practice, practice, practice. So I say that a lot. And then we're going to just talk briefly about campaign components. So this is kind of, and those of you who have run before hopefully did this with your campaign team and your manager, but you talk about why. That's the number one thing when someone says that they will raise their hand that they want to run for office. Why do they want to run for office? What are their values and their passion? What can they offer? What is their personal brand, and how are they going to do it? So that's their strategy. And I always start with why. There's a book that says Start with Why by Simon Sinek, but which is important. We always start with why. So what is important to you? What do you want to change, fix, and impact? Your reason for running for office. And if you can't verbalize that, that's a problem. So usually I work with the candidates for them to write a paragraph, write some words about what's important to them and why they're running. And then what do you want to change? Because your why can lead you to the office you're seeking. So if you have, let's say that your community is experiencing like book bans or some extreme people coming onto the school board, and you want to fight that. So you know that you want to speak out against it and go onto the school board, or something to do with your city, something's going on in your city, it's really important to you. Or maybe someday mayor or state rep or state senator. So what is your why? And that will lead you to your position. And then your personal brand is your story. So I know a lot of things are story. Politics a lot is story. It's like, does your story as a candidate resonate with the voter? That's what it is. And if your story resonates with the voter, you will get their vote. So, I mean, I hate to use the example, but Donald Trump's story resonates with a lot of people. I mean, even though there's a lot of stuff in there, and then we, again, could talk about that for a long time on a side issue. But his story resonates. Obama's story resonated with people. Michelle Obama, even though she's not running, her story resonates with people. People that people love, there's usually a story connected with it that they're like, I see myself in that person, or I see my story reflected through their story. So what is their message, and what is your message when you're running, and what is your unique perspective and skill set? So what do you bring into the table? And that's kind of like your personal brand. And then this is kind of like something when I used to talk about people in my communications training, identifying like what we're offering. I did a lot of leadership training. So what does this leader offer? What's their personal brand? So what is the candidate's personal brand? Identifying their unique skill set. Maybe they've worked in the healthcare industry. Maybe they've worked in communications. Maybe they know a lot about an issue that's very important to like people in Medina County. And so they can offer that as part of their unique skill set that they can bring to the table, and it differentiates them from other candidates. It's like what they can offer. So it's how others see you, how you see yourself, and where that intersects is your brand. And getting feedback from other people. How many of you have do that in your life, get feedback from other people in work and personal life? Do you try to do that? It's very important. And then trusted sources that you can actually listen to. So it's important to understand what other people think.
Right? You send a picture of the dress to the group chat.
Okay, well, there you go. The group chat. And then my last part of that framework is the campaign strategy. So how are you going to connect with voters? What's your strategy for getting your message out into the world, and how will you get there? So how will you reach that goal? How will you get that position? So that's a strategy. And there's a lot of things. So this is a team. I said building your team, and that when I talked about community at the beginning, that's one of the most important things. So this is like a team I worked with at the picture on the left. The first candidate I worked with as part of her campaign team, this was like some volunteers and people at an event. And she's in gray, and I'm in her shirt. And that's when I lived in Tennessee. So that was about 7 years ago when I worked with her. And that was the first time I was on a campaign team. So I've really, like, in the last 7 years, done a lot of that work. But that was my first experience being on an actual team. The middle one is the school board candidate I worked with 4 years ago, who's up for re-election. And I'm working with a city council man in Solon, who's running for re-election. And we marched in it basically used to be called the Home Days Parade, but it was a summer festival parade a couple weeks ago, and we had a lot of supporters show up and support him for his re-election bid. So building your team is important to get people together, get people to this middle. When we went to go to the football games. When you're running for like citywide, I mean, you guys have many cities in this county, but if you're in a specific city, football games are a very important part. They coincide with election season very well. And especially if you're running citywide, it's a great place to meet voters. So that's where we were. At the place I am every Friday for the next several months. Crafting campaign messaging, again, that's that framework, why, what, and how. The reason for running, again, is your values and passions, so those marry together. What you can offer is your personal brand, so again, we talked about how to find that. And then your campaign strategy is how you'll get there. And then this is a framework I recently came up with actually working with an actual candidate. So before that was more of a campaign framework when we're talking about the why. This is an actual, once you get into the campaign with a specific candidate, setting their pace. So, and he's run for office, so he knows, but preparing, making sure you're prepared, all your documentation, your team, everything is like all your ducks are in a row. That way you have everything going with your campaign set up, maybe a campaign plan written. Approachability, the candidate needs to be approachable. You have to be in front of voters. You're trying to get people's vote. So you're going to be meeting people in the community a lot. Communication is messaging, having succinct messaging and making sure maybe you have 3 key points about what you're going to do in that role. People are going to ask you all kinds of questions. So having that, and then social media, it still plays a role. I feel like it's less of a role than it used to be because people are kind of going off of it, but it's still, every candidate usually has a Facebook page and they have messages and pictures and things that go on, making sure that's consistent with their brand. So that personal brand, the communication has to match up. And then effort, and so I see this is how you win. If you have all of the PAC, the effort is a lot of times how you win that race, because I had another school board candidate I worked with who won, and she beat out somebody by going to like every single door in the city. I mean, she went and I don't think she met with anybody. It didn't matter if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. She just said, hey, we don't have anybody on our school board that has young kids, and she did. Nobody did for years and years. It was all people that had kids that had gone through the school system. And she's like, this is my personal brand, what I can offer, my unique perspective. I have 4 children that are small, that are going through. I have a supportive family, and I really want to do this. And she's done a good job. And she's done, again, I know what's going on because I'm friends with her, because when you work with people, you have those connections and you kind of know what's going on. But it's good to have that effort of like, she knocked on all those doors and she met all those people. The city council person I'm working with now, too, when he won his first race, he knocked on every single door in his ward 3 times. So it's like that. I know people sometimes, there's mixed messages you'll get from volunteers about canvassing, and a lot of people are doing lit drops instead. But when the actual candidate comes to your door, a lot of people will recognize that person and open the door. Because now, I mean, I'm the canvasser, I'm not the candidate, so I'm always on the ring camera, right? Me and my husband are like, hi, we're here with this information about this candidate. We do our little pitch in front of their camera. Sometimes people open the door. I think we have a pretty good return rate. There's a lot of people that don't. But if they recognize the candidate, a lot of times they will. And they'll have, my city council guy, people will invite him into their home a lot too. So that still happens now. I think that effort is really important. So a potential candidate, what I ask people is your family on board with your decision to run? Because it does take a lot of time, right? It does take a lot of effort. And what support do you think you will need? And sometimes you don't even know the support you know that you're gonna need. You don't even know. So you have to have those conversations. How much time will you be able to dedicate to your campaign on a daily, weekly basis? A lot of times people are working full-time or part-time jobs or more than one and running for office. So that's a campaign team discussion and family discussion of how much time, even if it's a short period of time, a couple months, you're gonna probably not really see your family. I worked with a state Senate campaign last year, and she basically told her family, I'm not gonna really see you for like 8 months. So, and it was hard, but like she was just always gone. So it's a reality conversation. Action step to take in preparation for running. I always tell people to write a few paragraphs about who you are, why you're running, your story, what you can offer, and what makes you different from the other candidates in the race. I think that's important. And then start regularly attending school board, city council, whatever your role is that you want. A lot of times going to those meetings, you see what's happening at the meetings and the issues that you're going to be encountering. These are helpful resources for some of them specifically for women, like She Should Run, Emerge America, Run for Something is for everybody. Vote, Run, Lead is it's a newer thing. National Democratic Training Committee, I don't know if you guys have ever been on that site. Tons of resources about running. So She Should Run and Emily's List, and I think Emerge also have databases of like just tons of like webinars and information about running for office. The Ohio School Boards Association, they can answer almost every question that you would have about running for office for school board in Ohio. They answer a lot of it. Cuyahoga County, that's where I live in Cuyahoga County, so the Board of Elections for me I'm always checking that for a lot of information and a lot of data. And the Democratic Party and the Democratic Women's Caucus is my county. And then Red, Wine, and Blue, obviously, is a very important resource, especially for issues. And you guys know about the Matriots, and they're technically nonpartisan, they support and endorse candidates. There are many more associations, organizations that support candidates. Talking about unions, environment, LGBTQ issues, there's so many out there. So having a campaign manager or a campaign consultant or someone you're going to work with that kind of knows how to organize that information, because there's due dates, and again, with school board, it's such a compressed schedule, having that organization is very important because it is cool to get those endorsements, and some people really care about it when they vote. So that's still a thing. So we talked about, last time I had the words project on there and people got really upset. Project, so I thought about maybe Blueprint 2027 because we want to get away from the word project 2027. So, but what they had was a playbook, or what they have is a playbook. What we need on the other side is a playbook. And for my part of Ohio, like Northeast Ohio, like where I live and my sphere of influence, is trying to organize the open positions that we have locally and then statewide too, to see, okay, we want to have, this person, Max Miller is my rep in Congress. Like, he's up in 26, so who's going to run against him? Like, who's going to run against this person? Who's going to run against, like, knowing some people that we can turn to and maybe some possible names to talk to about whether they would maybe run for that office. No, those are big ones, but like even locally, knowing your school board candidates, knowing your city council, when are they up? And then also building a database, like she said before, of potential campaign workers and volunteers, so you can plug these people in. This person doesn't want to run for office, but they want to help a campaign. And so having their name and having somebody maybe in your group organize this information, I think could be key to success. And I'm doing it on my own because I think it's really important. Any questions about that? We're going to call it a blueprint. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a plan to move forward. And again, you could change the year too. It doesn't have to be 2027. But so my role is as a campaign consultant is not necessarily a manager. These are the things that I do, but I work best with a manager. So this doesn't always happen for people because sometimes it's small campaigns that just kind of come together really quickly. But the campaigns I've seen that have been the most successful, they have a manager and a consultant. So the manager is going to do more of that organizational day-to-day, like he's saying, I'm going to meet with you every day. We've got to go to this event. We're going to organize a house party. I've got this team thing. I've got a fundraising event, that kind of thing. Those are day-to-day actions. A consultant is more broad, and so that's kind of what I do. So if you see or know of anyone in your county that would maybe benefit from my skill set, please, because I would like to help as many. This is another thing for me. Not people are like, why aren't you going to run for office? Because I can help 5 or 6 campaigns instead of run myself. And so my goal is to get as many people that have a similar worldview or like have these progressive values in the power. If I can do that, the more the merrier is what I'm saying. So instead of me running. So that's why I do that. But anyway, these are the things that I can help with and that someone in my role can help with. They help create your personal brand and messaging, hone your presentation, communication skills. I used to teach that. Build your campaign team, your plan, your strategy, navigate issues as they arise, because there's always going to be things that come up, always. Conflict resolution things too, maybe even within your team. Supporting you throughout your campaign journey. The first campaign I worked with, she was elected, and then I started attending actual meetings with her while she was getting ready to go into the role as county commissioner. So I went to county commission meetings with her, and I didn't abandon her because she won. I stayed with her and helped her get ready for the role. So this is very important. The antidote to despair is action. We kind of talked about that the whole entire time that I've been speaking to you. But when you get really down, think about something that you can do. Because getting out, and like me even just talking to you today is something that I'm doing. So it's like, I don't feel great. I got to go do something. So the antidote to despair is action. This is me throughout the years. You can tell there's some pandemic pictures in there. This is me and my young son, who's now going to be a senior in high school, in the corner. During the pandemic, when we were dropping lit for my candidate, my husband and I, for the school board campaign, we were in the middle, we're there at a football game, like I said. Over here, I worked with Sue DeRichko. She ran for state senate, and we were campaigning for Sue. This is Phil's, the state rep I worked with. That's his stuff. That's my husband. That's not him, but that's us. That's our campaign stuff that we were doing. Michelle was the school board candidate. She's on the left there too. And then that's my family many years ago. The boys are so big now. When I was working with that county commission campaign. So I think it's important to document, be out there in the community, take pictures, find your joy. And so I kind of want to end this by talking about what you can do right now. And number one thing, and it doesn't even have to be because there are other candidates, but again, I want more women in power, but find a local female candidate to support this year. So once you know who's running, city council, school board, anybody who's running even a bigger role than that, support somebody. It could be financial, it could be volunteer, it could be just showing up at their events and supporting them. It could be sharing their videos, sharing their information, sharing his videos and sharing his information, doing that for these people. Attend a local activist support group meeting, like something like this, what you guys do. Attend that. Ask someone you know if they've ever considered running for office. I really want everybody to do that. I think that's important. I now have probably somewhat uncomfortable conversations with people on a regular basis because they ask me what I do and I talk about running. And I'm like, have you ever considered running for office? Sometimes they're like, what are you talking about? And then find an issue that you're passionate about, plan an action, and then invite others to come with you, I think is really, really, really important. And so there are many more things. These are 4 things that you can do right now. And that's me. I have cards if you want to take them. That's my information. That's my website. I'm also on LinkedIn. But I would love to connect, just answer questions or talk about people that you know that need support and help. And then just keep helping people. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Oh, no problem. Thank you.